We are jumping and jiving here on the Ray Lucia Show, 844-RAY Show. If you want to talk with Gene Pastula about saving money, let me pose something to Mr. Pastula. Let's say you're 45 years old, you got a young family, and you're doing really well. In fact, you're doing so well you can't even qualify to do a Roth IRA, maxing out on the 401k plan, and you got a couple of grand a month surplus money. Now, Gene, we know that most 45-year-olds with a young family probably don't have enough life insurance. They probably haven't even thought about long-term care or disability coverage. I had this very conversation last night with a young man I am mentoring. He brought his financial data sheet to me because I'm training him. And I went through all these questions and he couldn't give me the answers. I said, we got to go back to the drawing board and get these answers. But you focus on this sort of thing. Design the plan for that 45-year-old and their family?
Well, if it's determined that he has the $2,000 a month, that's free cash, and he wants to start saving it, the typical alternative is to simply buy a mutual fund or start building a stock portfolio if that's your thing and whatever, and build it that way. And that's what you have. You have stocks that are either growing or not growing and some dividends and end of story, It either works great and satisfactory for you or not.
But there's also taxes.
Of course, yeah. There's taxes and there's fees and cost of doing business, etc., which is there in everything. Point is that from my perspective, what I show as an alternative, and it doesn't necessarily mean that instead of putting 2,000 here, put 2,000 here. Maybe put 1,000 here and 1,000 with my idea. And let me show you my idea. And my idea would be to set up an insurance contract that's designed specifically to accumulate money for later use in retirement. The life insurance element of it is secondary because what we want to do is we want to minimize the impact of the cost of insuring your life that is borne against the accumulation of the cash value in the insurance policy. And then we give it to the insurance company, and the insurance company says, okay, we're going to credit that with interest each year, and we're going to use a technique that essentially, when all is said and done, we're going to be able to credit that account that you're building up with interest that basically will equate to whatever the S&P grows by, the stock from the beginning of the year stock price to the end of the year stock price, whatever that percentage goes up, we will give that to your account. And it's subject to limits, typically like 12%. So we can give you as much as 12% if the stock price of the S&P averages goes up that much, and whatever it is, we'll give it to you. And by the way, if the stock price goes down, which the S&P does do every few years or what have you, you won't reduce your account value. It will just lock it in there and wait for the next time it goes up, and you'll start from there. Which, when you compare that to investing in the stock market and the up and down, you go up 7% one year and down 3%, and then up 5% and down 7%, and then you have to average it out. So at any rate, so now you get a really good rate of return on the money as you're accumulating it. It also has enough in there to buy a larger amount of life insurance. So if you don't live for some reason that long enough or whatever, you die soon, you sort of, it's like self-completing. It's a tax-free death benefit to your spouse or family. And then when you get around to retiring, and there's no requirements by the government to take it out at any point in time, whatever, like there are in IRAs and other approaches, then you can set it up to start taking income from that every year for the next 15, 20, 30 years, all tax-free. And then finally, when you pass away, whatever you haven't taken, they add a little element of life insurance to and send it to your heirs tax-free. So once you've put the money in this thing and you sit and watch it grow, you have all the flexibility in the world to use it or not. You can take money out early if you have an emergency. There's no penalties or requirements to repay, whatever. It's all flexible for you, but it provides a really nice alternative to all the other stuff that we typically hear about. A little complicated. I mean, if you need to know how the watch is built, as we say in the industry, and become an actuary, I mean, you'll definitely bury yourself in details and all the rest. But if you can look at the materials that the advisor gives you and the insurance company provides, that are all regulated by the insurance industry and the states and federal governments. So it's all legitimate stuff. And if you're willing to accept that and just understand on the surface without delving into the weeds on it, you can see just instantly, well, it just makes all the sense in the world. And the ones that want to delve in the weeds, if you want to call me, I'll delve in the weeds with you. But
I've been in the weeds with you before, but we shouldn't talk about that here on the air. No, just kidding. Okay, so the 45-year-old family man, or woman for that matter, has $2,000 a month. Mm-hmm. They haven't thought about long-term health care. How does this particular policy deal with disability, LTC, that sort of thing?
Well, in fact, I missed those. Which is good that you did your job.
That's why I'm here.
Exactly, yes.
I was delving into the weeds.
So depending on the circumstances and what your desires and needs are, these things will let's say you set up a $2,000 a month plan, and it gives you an opportunity to start accumulating that, but it'll also give you a life insurance policy of let's say $300,000. I have no clue what it is, but it's a bunch. So, well, that $300,000 would be paid to your heirs tax-free. Let's say you developed cancer and you died 18 months later, just totally out of the blue. They would get all the money you ever thought you were going to save on that. They'd get it with a life insurance benefit. Secondarily, there's a provision in there, and some of them just come automatically. Other carriers charge you a little bit, that says if you need long-term care, if you get to the point of 65 or 70 years old and it turns out you did well in all the rest of the stuff, and you don't need to take all this money for income, now it can ultimately all go to your heirs tax-free, huge amounts of value. If you need long-term care, you can tap it for that, and it's long-term, and it's tax-free.
So the death benefit becomes your
long-term care policy, or any portion of it, So it's not like yes or either or. All of these things are options, and disability income, certain features in there that have some access, gives you access to larger amounts of money than is actually in the contract. If you need, if you become disabled, if you need long-term care, if you become terminally ill and you need to or want to extract money from this, they'll prepay your death benefit or a portion of it early, all tax-free. So it's a very functional concept that is a great option or addition to your portfolio.
Gene Pastula, he's the man when it comes to this stuff. I would highly suggest that you do get in the weeds with Mr. Pastula. Go to safemoneymonitor.com, safemoneymonitor.com. Make sure you bring a note giving you permission to get in the weeds with Gene. I've done this before. We've had these conversations. 800-809-6783. This is something that you do need to evaluate. It is not for everyone, but for many people. And the more successful you are, the more compelling the argument. The higher the tax bracket you're in, the more compelling the argument. The more you've filled the buckets with other investments, and you're thinking about that brokerage account that you have to pay fees on, that you have to pay taxes on, have Gene do a side-by-side comparison based on some historical numbers. You'll be surprised at how potentially efficient this can be in helping to provide you a supplemental retirement income and also some benefits that most Roth IRAs and 401k plans don't have.
And I might add that a lot of people are looking, because this is a very popular thing, a lot of people are looking at those, and some of them, sometimes, not sometimes, a fair amount, they decide not to do it. Call me first and tell me why, and I'll bet you I'll show you why you are making a mistake in your thinking because you misunderstand something.
SafeMoneyMonitor.com, that's who I call when I get confused about this stuff. The weed whacker, Gene Pastula. We'll be back. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back.